So my name is Chris Voss from Lava Architects based in Sydney, Australia. I started Lava as an architecture firm working around the world. The most famous building that I ever worked on was the Aquatic Center for the Beijing Olympics in 2008. But there's a lot of other projects that I'm very proud of since then, because the greatest doesn't always have to be the biggest. I think what's really amazing is the power of transformation. The difference that design can make to a house, to a street or to a city. And starting with a house like this that's transformed from a Victorian traditional house into a modern residence that really represents its owners and the time that we live in with the technologies available to us. And if that reflects onto the city, when you think about how cities are constantly being updated with transport technology, the way that we move, the way that we communicate, and the fact that people actually work a lot more from home rather than going into offices and sitting in front of computers. So all of that is part of contemporary lifestyle, and living in a house like that represents that kind of feeling of living in the 21st century. So the house, since it was built, it has been featured in many magazines, in television shows. People come to visit it. Here's a magazine, Grand Design, where it was recently featured on the cover. And that has been an incredible recognition of the efforts that we've put into it. The terrace house is a typology that was brought from Europe, in particular from England, 200 years ago. What I find really interesting is the relevance of this typology of the terrace house as a medium density typology. It's obviously not a freestanding house in the leafy suburbs with a double garage. It's living right in the middle of the city, walking distance to pubs, restaurants, supermarkets, to the harbor, to the beach and to the park, without having to suffer or renounce on any comfort. So it's creating a wonderful lifestyle. At the same time, you cannot translate every typology from England to Australia without adapting it. And a lot of these terraces, therefore, when they, as you find them now, they're a little bit dark, they're a little bit moist, they don't get a lot of light, they don't get a lot of air. What's really nice about Tivoli Terrace is we completely took the building apart and put it back together in the most contemporary fashion. So we took this typology of the English terrace house and adapted it to Australian lifestyle, to Australian climate and to the 21st century. And the way we did that was by opening up the house, letting light and air flow through the house, making every possible surface usable as storage, at the same time functional spaces, having sliding doors that screen the outdoors, bring the outdoors in, bring the inside out, and applying a lot of little techniques of lighting and surfacing areas to make them feel warmer and bigger and more comfortable. So essentially the terrace that is 120 years old all of a sudden becomes a contemporary residence in the center of the city. And so we thought that this transition from an old terrace, Victorian style, into a new residence needs to be celebrated throughout the space. So the first room still has some original features that are partially the fireplace, cornices around the ceiling and those kind of elements. And the further you progress through the house, the more modern it becomes, and then it culminates in the kitchen with the surfboard-shaped table and the cloud light. As an architect, I'm inspired by nature. And when I say inspired by nature, then I mean looking at how nature works and trying to extract how it functions and translate that into architectural and engineering solutions. So when you look at this little thing, for example, in nature that would occur in many different forms as a minimal surface. Everything in nature is built around membranes. When you look at leaves, when you look at spider webs, when you look at cell structures. And these cell structures are always organized in the most efficient way with the least amount of material, but the strongest possible structure. So if you translate this simple principle into furniture or into building design, into high-rise tower structures, etc., then you find things that are incredibly beautiful but incredibly efficient at the same time. So the Karim Rashid pendant lights, for example, they're like a beautiful water drop just about to fall, and 6 of them hover above the living room table. The bathroom series by Ross Lovegrove called Istanbul is a series of kind of petal-like structures, similar to a minimal surface structure in nature, and they just feel beautiful, round, comfortable, and futuristic but homely at the same time. Other pieces that I couldn't find on the market, we designed ourselves. So for the kitchen island, for example. A kitchen island is usually a square block, and it kind of features as a centerpiece of the kitchen, but it's just a square box. In this space, we thought if the centerpiece becomes literally an island shaped like a surfboard, then you naturally move around this island and it becomes part of the space like a sculpture. So it becomes a dominating feature and a defining feature of the space that you see from the outside and from the inside. So all of a sudden the island really becomes the heart of the house. Above the island is a lighting feature which is inspired by clouds. So it's like a free-form hovering object, which we then sliced into little slices out of wood. So you get this incredible effect of a UFO floating above a kitchen table that looks like a surfboard, and all of that in a 120-year-old terrace. So that gives it this contemporary feeling. What I never liked about kitchens is that there's so many different elements. There's the fridge, the stove, the extractor, and everything sits on different levels and makes kitchens look very messy. We integrated everything into kind of an L-shaped free-form kitchen, and that takes care of all the different elements and integrates it into kind of a holistic kitchen. So in a house, it's very important to take care of all the things that you want to have in a house and provide storage for them. So everybody has a lot of stuff, things that you want to see and things that you don't want to see. So we came up with this solution where every surface of the house is essentially a storage wall, and alternating little showcases where you can show gifts that you brought from Taiwan or from Germany or from elsewhere, and you showcase them. But you can also use the side of it as a shelf with a door where you conceal things that you don't want to see, like batteries, light bulbs, and other things in your life. And so every surface of the house at the same time is a visual surface and a storage surface. And so the same approach of storage applies to the kitchen, where we used SMAC technology from Italy, SMAC appliances, and integrated them seamlessly into the walls. Upstairs, where we had 3 bedrooms, we actually took one of the bedrooms out to create a more comfortable second living space area with very cool sofas from the 70s. Rather than cramming as many bedrooms as you can into a house, I always find a house needs to breathe and it needs to be able to be lived and enjoyed by multiple parties with multiple activities going on different levels. So upstairs the children can watch television, while downstairs the parents are having a drink or cooking or spending time outside. You spend so much time in your house, and you can spend increasingly more time in your house now, that why wouldn't you make it the best possible house that you can? The most comfortable house, the most light house, the most natural surfaces, and the most well-being, healthy environment for you and your partners and your future generations.